What's up, friends? Welcome to Chaos Live. We're gonna hang out here on this Sunday evening, hang out and do a live stream. It's been a while since we did the official Chaos Live thing, so if you're new, maybe you subscribed recently or whatever the case might be, or this is the first time joining, this is the fun little live stream I like to do on the weekends where we'll do this for approximately about an hour, hang out, answer questions. So if you have questions, you can drop those down in the chat, wherever side it would be on. I guess it'd be over that way, I think, or something. So leave your questions over there. I'll try to answer the best I can. Sometimes the chat gets pretty busy and I can't always answer all of your questions. Sometimes I have to skip around a little bit, but you can always come back to the video later when it's been processed and available for rewatching it and everything. And then you can check out, you can leave a comment in there and sometimes I can answer those. Or you can check out my Instagram. I got little links right up there. If you search for me, ThatChrisChaos on Instagram, you can find me on there very easily, and you can shoot me a message, and a lot of times it's easier for me to reply to you there as well, so keep that in mind. All right, so we got some Andrew Jackson, we got Creative Perspective Media, Edward Jr., SCP-682, interesting screen name, Salty Fishing, 9mm Madness, we got Shane, we got Ray, Bit Expert, what's happening, we got John, Noah, all sorts of awesome, amazing people. So what's happening? Let's get into it and let's see what we got. Hello, what's up, my G? What's up, Tanner? How's it going? And then people saying what's up. Apparently SCP-682 is not a furry, so just keep that in mind. That's apparently what he's saying here. What's going on, Ray? Bit Expert. What's up, Chaos Army? What's happening? I was the second person to join the stream, maybe. Possibly. I don't know. I can't keep track of that, of who the first ones were, but you guys were awesome. Probably got notifications, hopefully, and that's why you guys are here so quick. So that's awesome. Got new lighting, by the way. How's it look? Hopefully it looks good. If you've seen my Instagram, you saw the new key lights. Well, actually, I posted on here, too, in the community section, too. Does anyone know the ASVAB score to get into the infantry? A 80 or 90. It's either 80 or 90 in the combat section. But I have a video on that if you later you want to check out the MOS Monday episode for 11 Bravo or even 11 Charlie. They both have the same scores. I think I made a mistake on the 11 Bravo one, but I corrected like in the description or a pinned comment at the top. But I believe it's a 90 in the combat section, I think, offhand. I don't remember. Question I need to know, what is the PCAT? It's kind of like this pre-test kind of thing. I don't know all the full things of it. It's something a little bit more newish, not really new, but something I have not experienced, but maybe some people in the chat can give you a better explanation. If you Google it, I'm sure you can probably easily Google it and probably get the answer. Love the videos. Well, thanks, Creative Perspective Media. Thoughts on the West Point vehicle accident? I haven't really paid attention to it. I don't pay attention to much news stuff, and I don't really do news stuff like on this channel. As far as like if there's a controversy or an incident or something like that with the Army, it's more for educational purposes of helping people out, so that if you want to know about, you know, how something works in the Army or, you know, different things like that, not necessarily events like that. So and then that's also because I don't really pay attention to a lot of stuff sometimes. So yeah, we got Kingsman Sean with a super chat. Thank you, man. By the way, I think we got a little shout out down here because Kingsman, isn't it Kingsman Sean? I think it is in there, right? It's got it in there somewhere. Where Kingsman Sean is a elite member over at the Patreon, so there's a shout out that comes across through the scrolling thing. So thanks, Kingsman Sean. We got Blues or Bruins. Oh, you're talking about like was that for hockey? I don't watch hockey. That's what you're talking about? The only really, I think that's what you're talking about. I'm guessing. Because the Bruins, I know, is that's a hockey team, right? I think so. So the only sport I really ever watch is MMA. So I watched like the UFC fight last night for Shinchenko, and then the main event for Henry Cejudo and everything. So that's the main sports that I watch. So I can really only relate to that kind of stuff. Any other sports, I'm sorry, I don't pay attention to, and I don't know anything about it. Can the Army change your MOS after your contract? Because I want something to do with artillery, but I don't want them to change it on me. Not really. There's only a few circumstances where that happens. One, if you can't pass AIT, then they're going to change it to something they want to put you in. So if you fail AIT, then they're going to reclass you to whatever they feel like reclassing you to, kind of, or what they need people in. And then like that situation where I had that news thing where people were overstrength in a certain MOS, then they kind of force people to either reclass or get out of the Army. So that's kind of like sometimes your options on that part. But otherwise, those are usually the only ways that kind of falls into place. Ain't Chinook's the fastest helicopter in the Army inventory? I don't know. Would an Apache is probably faster than a Chinook is. The Apache helicopter is an attack helicopter. I think it'd be probably faster. What happens if you got to use the latrine in formation? You better wait. I mean, sometimes you can jump out of formation. I mean, formation doesn't really last long unless you're in some kind of special award ceremony or few other circumstances where they will last a while. But for the most part, usually most formations are for accountability purposes, to get accountability of everybody, and then go doing whatever you got to do. And then if you have to go to the bathroom, usually you just hold it. But yeah, you're kind of, hopefully you go to the bathroom before you go into formation, because I'm sure you're going to know, unless it suddenly comes up, then you're just kind of screwed, I guess. What was my MOS? It was an 88 mic. Shouldn't you know that by now? Haven't you been in these chats and these live streams long enough? My son is heading to Fort Sill. Have you been there? What is it like? I have never been to Fort Sill. So no, I can't say that I've actually been to Fort Sill. So I have no idea what Fort Sill is like. Sorry. Did you serve under someone from West Point? I had a lieutenant one time who went to West Point. He was a pretty cool guy. I forget his name now. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was pretty cool. He was a pretty cool guy. He's pretty smart and everything like that. So, and then as far as commanders, I'm not 100% sure. There's a good possibility, but I don't know for sure which commanders I would have had that had been through West Point. Have you played Counter-Strike? Not a long time. It's been a while. I want to go to West Point, but I don't know what part, mechanized infantry or armor. Some of that stuff too, for officers, you don't really get to pick what field you want to go into unless you graduate top one, like in the top certain percentage. Then sometimes you get to pick your field. Otherwise, everybody else just gets stuck where the Army needs you. So that's kind of another thing you have to kind of keep in mind with officers. Officers don't get to pick their MOS like enlisted soldiers do. Unless you're kind of like in one of the top percentage areas, then you kind of get to pick the field that you go to. What's your favorite weapon? I don't know if I have one, man. 50 cal is pretty cool. I use the M4 all the time. So, I don't know. How is Army food like? It's good. Army food's not bad. I mean, you know, it's not like in the movies where it's slop or anything crazy. You actually have pretty decent food. It's like the chow halls and everything, especially like on, usually they have a dedicated day, like maybe like it'll be like, I remember like Wednesdays, for example, was one of the common ones where they'd have shrimp and lobster available in the chow hall. I'm not a lobster fan, but I do like shrimp, and the shrimp is always pretty good. So, the Army food's still pretty good. MREs aren't the greatest, but what do you think of Sea Cadets? I think my little nephew should do it. Do you have any thoughts? I have never worked with any Sea Cadets. I have no idea. Couldn't tell you. Did you know that the Beretta 9mm has been replaced with the Sig Saucer M17? Yeah, they have a different one. I don't remember if that's what it's called. I don't remember what the new, the replacement for the 9mm is actually replaced by. It's like this modular system that you can like swap out barrels, and it sounds pretty cool. I did a video on it a long time ago when they first announced it. I've heard there's a test for 11 X-ray at MEPS to qualify for combat MOS that you have to overhead press 125 3 times. Is that true? I don't believe so. Because the thing is when you go through MEPS, they're doing like basic qualification stuff first. So they're doing like the drug test, they're doing a physical, do like an eye test, all sorts of other things like that. And from there, after those results, then they narrow down what MOS you qualify based on how your MEPS visit went and how your ASVAB scores look. So then you sit down with someone and they go over everything, and they're like, okay, so based on everything you just did here at MEPS and your ASVAB scores, here are the MOSs that are available for you to choose from, and then you lock it in. So you wouldn't actually really know if you're even able to get like an 11 X-ray until you're already gone through the whole physical process. I don't believe there's any kind of special thing you need to do like for lifting weight or anything like that before you do that. So I don't believe that's true, but I don't know for sure unless it's something new that they started doing recently or something like that. Edward Jr. with a super chat. What's happening, man? I miss being able to super chat like crazy. Hey, it's cool. I'm still always appreciative of just hanging out. Super chats aren't always necessary. I mean, sure, they do help out the channel and do all this other great stuff, but just being here and watching all my videos also helps out too. So I always appreciate it. But thanks, Edward, for the super chat. Even if you can't make it rain, it's not a big deal. So that's good. Let's see, how many times can you fail AIT PT? It's kind of gonna vary based on leadership. Sometimes it might be as little as 2. Sometimes you might get more chances than that. Usually at a minimum they have to at least give you a second chance. Now it's up to the leadership and maybe you as far as if they want to give you more than a second chance and give you a third chance or whatever. That just kind of depends on certain things. But at a minimum they usually have to at least give you a second chance to try to be able to pass that PT test. How do you know you really want to join and it's not just a phase in your life? I don't know. I think it's, you know, I mean, that can be really applied with anything, you know, so it's kind of tough to say for how you really know if you're going to join the Army. I mean, if it's something you really want to do and it's something you've thought about for a long time, just do all your research, do everything you can, and if it's something you're passionate about and you want to do, then go for it, you know. Especially, you know, if you do it for 4 years, get the experience, and then you realize that it was just a phase, then you get out of the Army and go find something else. But, you know, sometimes it's for everybody, sometimes it's not for everybody. I don't know how you can determine early if it's a phase or not. How do companies work? Like, how is it decided what kind of MOS are in, like, mortars, infantry? It's just organization for the company. There's no real set standard. They're going to have, you know, certain companies that are maybe the infantry company, another company that's a support company, and all sorts of other stuff. Not a lot of units would have maybe a whole company worth of mortars. It'd probably be like a platoon of mortars. So it's really just, it really varies. There's no set standardized kind of thing. So it just kind of depends. Edward with another super chat. Oh man. Are you contractor or military civilian? I am a contractor. So I'm not, so those of you who don't know the difference, there's a thing called DoD civilians, which is like a GS, government civilian, or no, it's not, it doesn't stand for government civilian, government service, I think is what GS actually stands for in that manner. But you have GS positions, so you have like GS 5, GS 11, and that's kind of like their rank as a civilian, working for the military, working for the government. And then you have contractors where the government just basically hires a company to do a certain role, to, you know, do different things, and then they hire their own employees that are working for that company was contracted to do the work for. I am just a government contractor, so I have a company that I work for that was contracted by the United States military to be able to do a job. But thanks for the super chat, Edward. So that's how it works. I'm a contractor though. Proud uncle, great nephew in the military. His MOS the same as yours. Well, that's awesome, Joe. Good to hear. Hopefully he enjoys it. Can you please, can you do a MEPS video, please? I don't remember if I've ever done a MEPS video. I don't think I have. I think I maybe briefly talk about it. Maybe like there was a video I remember talking about it. Maybe like the video where I was talking about how to join the Army or something like that. I think it briefly talks about MEPS, but that is very tough because sometimes it can vary a little bit here and there based on the location, because, you know, there's a lot of MEPS stations all over the place. So that really just depends. Charlie with the donation. Thanks, Charlie. Thanks for the donation. Didn't ask a question, but it's cool. Thanks for dropping in the donation. But I see afterwards you said 31 kilo video. What's 31 kilo? I don't even know what a 31 kilo is. 31 kilo MOS is Army working dog handler. That'd be pretty cool. That might be one probably maybe coming up at some point soon. I think other people have asked me about that MOS, so that could come at some point in time, probably fairly soon. How would I go about a peanut allergy for the Army? So you can come into the Army usually with allergies. It depends on certain allergies and how extreme it is sometimes. I'm sure probably peanut allergy probably is okay. I don't think that's a big, like a disqualification thing. I don't believe, but don't quote me on that. But there are soldiers that will have like allergies, and they usually wear like a special bracelet that has like their allergies listed on it, and then on their dog tags there's a section on the dog tags that'll list their allergies if they're allergic to something. So that's usually just how it goes, and then you just got to avoid stuff that have peanuts in it, I guess. Just like you would normally do, but you'll have usually some kind of identifier, like a bracelet maybe you'll probably still wear, you'll be allowed to wear, and then on your dog tags it'll usually have your allergies listed on there. Christopher at MEPS, were you pressured to take a certain MOS? How do you avoid that stuff? So I don't know if I've ever told this story of like my how it really went for MEPS. I don't remember if I ever talked about it, but When I went through MEPS, I actually went through MEPS twice. The first time I went through MEPS, there wasn't a whole lot of options for me available. Because I, kind of just took the ASVAB to get out of class, so I didn't really score that high on the ASVAB. It was just kind of okay-ish, so it didn't allow me to have a lot of opportunities for MOSs available to me because I just kind of goofed off when I took the ASVAB, and then I also had a red-green colorblind, so that also eliminated for a lot of MOSs. The first time I went to MEPS, they only had, I think, like 2 or 3 MOSs that were at that time available based on slots, based on my little, like my ASVAB scores and my red-green colorblindness and everything like that, and I didn't like any of those 2. So I was going to give up and just say, forget it, I'm not joining the Army because I don't want to go into any of those 2 MOSs. So I walked away. I left from MEPS. Maybe about a week went by. I told my recruiter I'd think about it. I was just telling him that, maybe just to have him stop bugging me. But I was like, maybe a week went by, 2 weeks went by, and I was like, you know what, screw it. I'll go ahead and join the Army. I'll do one of these MOSs that I don't really want to do, but maybe I'll just do it for short term, and then switch to something else, either get out or whatever, and get a college education. So I can suck it up for maybe 4 years. So I went back to MEPS, and the MOS that I was going to suck it up and take was now not available anymore. So they had to like do some stuff and look around, and then it came back, and 88 Mike was one of the options that they now had available for this time, and I was like, okay, I'll take it. So I ended up taking that one. So there wasn't really necessarily like anything where they like forced you into taking anything or whatever. They give you the options, you either take it or you don't take it. So that's just kind of how it ends up basically going. Edward with another super chat. Is there much difference soldiers and military civilians? What do you mean? Is there much soldiers and military civilians? You're talking about, is there much of a difference? There's a big difference. I mean, for one, the pay is usually better, sadly, I'm sorry, but civilians actually usually get paid better than the soldiers do, to a certain level anyways. And some, I guess it depends on the job though, because there are some cases where soldiers are getting paid more than the civilians, I guess. So I guess that's anywheres, but a lot more freedom as a civilian. You don't have all the same restrictions as the soldiers do. So yeah, there's a lot of differences. You're still really just a civilian. You don't have to go by the military rules of a lot of things. So thanks for the super chat though, Edward. If that's what your question was, it was kind of hard to kind of decipher it a little bit. But Anthony, can you enter the Army with bad eyesight and glasses? You can. That's how I got in the Army. I don't have great vision. As long as your vision can be corrected to 20/20 with glasses, then yes, you can. Now, yes, it might limit you from being able to do certain MOSs where they need you to have 20/20 without corrective lenses, but there's still a lot of MOSs, or most MOSs, that are still available as long as you can, your glasses correct your vision to 20/20. So that works fine. I'm gonna come backwards a little bit on some of these questions, so sorry for those new people that just maybe ask some questions. We'll come down to those in somewhat. I'm gonna bounce backwards a little bit. Do you get to learn combat stuff as an 88 Mike after basic and AIT? Yeah, you'll still do some stuff. Every soldier usually does a little bit of basic stuff. And, obviously infantry MOSs will do more of that training more consistently. Other MOSs may only do it once in a great while. As an 88 Mike, I still did classes and did different training exercises on how to like raid a building, how to, different combat tasks and everything. You learn those drills. And then a lot of other people do that too, just for, training purposes to do stuff. So yeah, a lot of MOSs will still learn that stuff. Just the actual ones that are like 11 Bravos and other MOSs will just do it a lot more often than other MOSs will do it. What's the minimum amount of time someone has to retain in the Army if they join? What's the minimum amount? They do like these 2-year contracts. They're a little tough to get, and it's really like 2.5 years. I think that's the minimum. Most commonly, there's 3- and 4-year contracts. There is technically, like I said, a 2-year contract, but those are really, really hard to get. You have no allergies until you're done with MEPS? What? Well, maybe. What is MEPS? MEPS is the, shoot, I can't remember what it stands for, but basically it's the place where you go to make sure you qualify for going into the Army. They do physicals, and they do a bunch of other tests on you and stuff, and that's where you would actually sign your contract to join the Army, is at MEPS. So, hi, quick question, how the IRR works. Not a whole lot happens with the IRR. It's just kind of like a chance of if you're going to get called up or not. I mean, there's really hasn't been any conflicts in the last, I don't know, 20, 30 or whatever years that has, I don't think, called up people from IRR, or if there was, not very many. But for the most part, most people who are in the IRR end up just having to go to maybe once in a great while some kind of class, or they'll give you a call or something like that. For those of you who don't know what IRR is, when you join the Army, no matter if you do a 2-year contract, 4-year contract, whatever your contract, you have an 8-year commitment. Whether that's 4 years actively being in the Army, in the reserves or whatever, and then 4 years of being IRR, whatever that breaks down to, but in overall, all of it has to add up to 8 years. So if you only do 4 years, then you have 4 years of a commitment to the IRR, where they can call you up and bring you back in the Army if they want, or they can even call you up to make you go do this class or whatever. An example is, I've known one person where they were in the IRR for like 3 or 4 years, and I think once they got called back to do some class on something, so they had to go somewhere nearby. They got paid to do it though, for that day, and then they did like a class for the day or half a day, and then went back to doing the regular thing. Another guy that I know, he's been in the IRR so far now for 3 years maybe now, and all he's ever gotten is like occasionally they'll give him a phone call to make sure he's still alive, and that's it. And that'll just be an occasional phone call, maybe like once a year, twice a year, something like that. So that's kind of how it ends up going. Bit Expert with a super chat. Is it okay that I'm answering some of the questions? That's fine. Yeah, by the way, if there's any of you that are veterans or maybe you have knowledge on stuff, yeah, it's great to help me out sometimes in the comment section and answer them. I might end up answering the same question as well, but there's also a chance that I don't get to that question, and maybe one of you guys are able to answer it, and you can. That's cool too. I love that. That's awesome. So thanks for also the donation too, Bit Expert. But yeah, that's cool if other people are answering questions. If you know the answer, drop the answer. Sometimes I'll give my input. Sometimes I might just not see your question or have to jump around a little bit, and I won't end up seeing it. So that's always good too. Thanks for the info. Great content. Your Ranger SF videos were great. I appreciate what you do. Well, thanks. Who is this? glad to be of assistance. Question: what's the hardest part of 88 being an 88 mic? Ooh, you know what? I have the answer for that, but I'm doing a video, or I don't know when it'll go live or whatever, but I did a video with Ben Allen, and that's one of the questions Ben Allen asked me in the video. So I'm gonna save the answer for that, because that is one of the answers I give in Ben Allen's video on 88 Mike that I did with him. So when that video goes live, if you're not already subscribed to Ben Allen, then maybe you can get it from there. But when it does go live, I'll also share it in the community section. So you might see it pop up in the community section of there, and you can check out that video as well. Maybe I'll talk about it on Instagram. So if you follow me on Instagram, I'll say, hey, the video's live, go here to find it or whatever, go to Ben Allen's channel and check it out. But I answer that question in that. So I'll save that from there. I don't want to take any thunder away from Ben's good video, hopefully. All right. In basic, do we have weekends off? No, you don't. I mean, you won't always do training on weekends, but that doesn't mean you have the weekends off. They'll find something for you to do. Especially like sometimes, most of the time you're doing like training on Saturdays. You're doing training from Monday through Saturday. Sunday is really just like a day of doing nothing but details and cleaning and a bunch of other stuff. You can go to church if you want to go to church, and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes Saturdays is the same, where Saturdays might not have training, but you're still doing like something like crazy, like cleaning, or they'll find something for you to do. So in basic training, you don't have any days off. You have a little bit of time here and there off-ish to kind of do some stuff, not like time to go like free and do stuff, but like maybe some time to, write a letter, or maybe occasionally have time to use your phones or different things like that. So that's how it ends up going. Jay the Born, what's happening, man? I spent 3 years in the IR. Yeah, so there you go. How many times did you have to do classes? Did you have to do any classes? Did you get called up any times? Most people I've talked to, they said that it's once in a great while, or didn't have to do anything at all. What were your thoughts on the ACU UCP being replaced this year, and did you like it? The uniform's been going through the phases of being replaced. This year is I think October of this year is when the old school digital uniform will no longer be authorized. But soldiers have mostly been wearing the UCP, or the operation, or the OCP, whatever it's called, version of the uniform for a while now. And you start seeing less and less and less soldiers wearing the old digital patterns. But yeah, I think effectively this year in October is when they're not even allowed to wear the old ones anymore. So they have to go to those ones. Oh yeah, sorry, and then David, sorry, I was gonna come to the super chat, but I didn't, sorry about that, David. David, thank you for the super chat. Bad credit stop you from getting a security clearance? It can. yeah, it depends on how bad of a credit it is. Because the way they look at it is if you have really bad credit and you have a lot of debt, then you're possibly someone that could be targeted for, you know, giving up information or leaking or being a spy for the enemy, because they can easily bribe you with money to get you out of debt. So that's what they look at it that way. So yes, depending on how bad it is and how much debt you are in. I don't know what the criteria is, what the threshold is on that, as far as how bad is bad debt, as far as how in debt is bad enough to deny you a security clearance. I don't know that part of the information, but yeah, you have to be aware that, you know, if you don't have good credit, then that and why you don't have good credit, I guess, too, can really make a determining factor of whether or not you get granted a security clearance. I was curious about infantry. How dangerous is it currently compared to a few years ago? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's probably not as dangerous as it was, say, like, you know, when Iraq and Afghanistan were really active deployments. Now there's a lot of 11 Bravos that are walking around, you know, with no combat patches because, you know, they have not deployed, and that's the same for a lot of soldiers too, not just 11 Bravos. I mean, 88 Mikes, whatever. So I would say, you know, there's still some danger to even be an 11 Bravo even if you don't deploy because of the training that you'll do. But yeah, I would say it's definitely not as dangerous of an MOS as it was when Iraq and Afghanistan was very, very active, where units were constantly going on these deployments every other year and all that kind of stuff. So there you go. How does buying things online work when living on post housing? They still have post office. So on base they'll have a post office, so it would still get transferred over there. FedEx and UPS and all that stuff is allowed on base. They come on base to do deliveries, so it would still work the same. It doesn't really change. Edward with a super chat. If you're Jewish, can you pray on Saturday instead of Sunday? I don't know on that. I think they are pretty stuck on religious services being on Sunday. I don't know if they have special situations for that. If I don't know really anything about religion stuff. So if that's the thing that, like, you know, people who are Jewish do, is they do stuff on Saturdays instead of Sundays. I don't believe they do anything special for that, but I don't know for sure. I've never seen it. Like when I was in basic training, I didn't never see anybody having to, you know, do church on Saturday and then everybody else doing it on Sunday or anything like that. Pretty much everybody was just doing it on Sundays. Can you give a shout out to Nick Gurr? Sure, shout out. I don't know who that is. Who's Nick Gurr? Oh, you son of a... Ooh, all right, you know what? Nope, I got you. Guess what? That's an easy way to get banned from the channel. There you go. Congratulations, Joe. Just got banned. I will not be able to see any of your comments, neither will anybody else. Sorry about that, guys. I don't see how credit can affect security clearance. I have secret clearance and have never even owned a credit card. So yeah, there's different kinds. So it just depends on why you have bad credit. If you have bad credit because you just don't have enough background of credits and stuff like that, you don't have, you know, you don't have a lot of debt for them to look at for things you've been paying on, and you have a low credit score because of that, then that's not going to disqualify you. But if you have a low credit score because you're really far in debt, you have a lot of bills you're trying to pay, you have a lot of, you know, you have maybe a large car loan and a lot of credit cards, you know, really racked up, then that can affect it. Just simply having a low credit score doesn't eliminate you completely. It has to be, they'll look into why you have a low credit score. So that kind of just depends too. Killer Shades says, love your channel. Thanks, Killer Shades. Hey bro, how you feeling? Feeling all right. Feeling okay. Getting there. It's getting better. Did Edward have a super chat and you retracted it? I don't know, I thought I saw a super chat. Maybe not. Let's see, 11 X-ray, Benning, August 13th. Well, good luck to you. Was it the baby derp? Hopefully everything works out well. Does the Army pay to ship your car to the base you're located at if you're married, living off base? They do. Yeah, so when you get out of AIT and all that stuff, you'll be able to sometimes, most of the time, take leave right after AIT, and then you can arrange for shipping of everything. You can arrange to have all of your stuff shipped to wherever your first duty station is going to be. You can choose to have your vehicle shipped for you if you want in most cases, or you can choose to drive it, and then if you choose to drive it, then they'll reimburse you for the gas that you had to use for getting there. So you can do it several different ways. Sometimes people like to just simply drive their own stuff there, because in the end it ends up working out to I think making better money or something like that if you do it the right way. And you can make better money by just going and shipping it yourself by getting a U-Haul and then having the Army pay you back. But you just got to kind of weigh the options and kind of look into it and see which one kind of works best for you. Especially if you have to go a really long ways, it might just be better to have the Army ship the stuff for you though. So I got high school credit score and semi-high debt student loans. Yeah, if you're doing good though, you're like making the payments on time, they don't see like a lot of delinquencies and certain other things. Like I don't know all of the deals, but that's one of the things that can weigh in there as far as if you're going to get denied the security clearance. So that's always the tough part. So I don't have all of the answers for what's going to deny you a security clearance, but if you're just doing, people have debts. That's okay to have debts, and if you're making the payments on time and all that other fun stuff, then you're good, right? But if you are really far in debt and you're falling behind on some of those payments and everything like that, then they look at that as you could possibly be bribed by the enemy or something like that. So that's kind of one of the things they kind of look at. What is your least favorite MRE? Least favorite MRE? I don't know. I don't know what maybe some of the vegetarian ones are kind of gross, but there's also some vegetarian ones that are pretty good. I don't know. I don't know offhand what my least favorite one might be. It's probably one of the vegetarian ones though. So Jay the Vorn, while in IRR, individual ready reserve, so there you go, that's what the IRR stands for. I got orders to attend a readiness muster every year, never got called back, but I think if you live in a populated area, you might get orders more often. I think sometimes it depends on probably if you maybe live within a good vicinity of a Army base to be able to do that kind of stuff. If you're pretty far away from one, then it might be less common. I don't really know though. I did more than 8 years. I did a little over 10, so I never had to do the IRR because I went past the 8-year commitment. Can you pass MEPS if you had a broken bone in the past, but now I'm good? Yeah, you should be fine. The only time that that can play in there is if there was for some reason that's still causing you pain, or you can't lift things. Things like that, where maybe that could still affect you. Is 11 X-Ray Ranger? No, it is not. 11 X-Ray is just a temporary MOS assignment for infantry, where you will either go and become 11 Bravo or become 11 Charlie. The larger percentage of individuals go and become 11 Bravos, and then a smaller percentage will get assigned 11 Charlies. But that's essentially what that is. It's just a MOS you get assigned when you first go to basic for infantry. If I volunteered Ranger after Airborne, do I become Ranger for volunteering? What are you talking about? If I volunteer Ranger after Airborne, do I become Ranger for volunteer? So you have to become Ranger, you have to go to RASP, and you have to go through the selection course. So if you go through RASP and you get selected, then you become a Ranger. So I mean, you can request to go to the school. Sometimes it might be difficult to get that out of, if you didn't get that initial contract, you might have to wait till you get your first unit to request to go to RASP. Sometimes they are able to work with you and able to get it to go like after basic training or whatever, but sometimes not always. So that just kind of depends. How are medical facilities in the Army like? They're pretty good. They got good hospitals. It's always pretty good. So I've been to medical facilities on different installations, and they all seem pretty good. Can you use your VA home loan to build your own house? You can. There are some stipulations with that. Like usually it can't be like if you want to go buy a lot somewheres and then try to have a house built on it. That's kind of a little bit iffy. There's a lot of restrictions with that. But if there's like a housing area where they're building houses and you're allowed to like customize, how the house is going to be built, then you can do that. They won't really do a VA loan to say like you're going to build it yourself. You're going to buy a property and build it yourself. You probably won't be able to do that. because they really need to like back their money on something that's going to be, you know, solid. They don't want to go and give you the money, you build some really crappy house that's not worth what they gave you for it, and then now they're out if something happens where they need to take that house back to sell it or whatever because you know, went delinquent on your mortgage or whatever craziness, right? But there's a little bit of restrictions, but yes, you can essentially build your own house. There's just some different restrictions that kind of go along with that. Just you can't build it yourself. Some other people are gonna have to be building it. I'm gonna have to miss this late night with chaos. Work sucks, but still dropping in to leave a like. Well, thanks, John. Thanks for dropping in to leave a like. We're at 28 likes. You know, I think we got, how long we've been streaming for? 29 minutes? That's it? Feels like we've been streaming for much longer. I'm gonna refresh the page because sometimes it gets stuck. I haven't been paying attention. I was supposed to do like a little counter. 36 minutes, yeah. So we got, you know, about 20-ish, a little over 20 minutes left. We'll try to see if we can get it up to 50 likes before the live stream ends. So that'll be a goal. Nothing special though for the goal. Chaos, what's up, my G? I'm going into the 11th grade next year, and I was wanting to join JROTC. I only have 2 years. If I start now, do you think I should do it if I choose active duty? It still helps. I don't know if 2 years of JROTC will get you into the Army at a higher rank. Maybe as E2, maybe. I don't know for sure. But the experience will be good. It'll make basic training a little bit easier because then you'll be able to already know the basics, like the basics of rank structure, the basics of, you know, drill and ceremonies, and a lot of the other, you know, just basic stuff. And it'll make basic training that much easier for you because you already know how to do some of that stuff. So I think it's good. I didn't have a JROTC at my high school to do it. I probably wouldn't have done it anyways. But I feel if someone already in high school knows that that's what they want to do, they want to join the Army, I say go for it. I think it can really help out. Chris, how you feeling, man? I'm doing all right. Doing okay. Getting better. Almost 100%, maybe, I think. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, I guess, if I'm 100%. Can I change my MOS job after basic training? No, not that soon. If you go and you pick an MOS, you're locked into that MOS for the most part until that first contract is up. So if you do a contract, let's say for 4 years in the Army, then maybe that 3rd year of being in the Army, because that's a year out, is when you're eligible to re-enlist for the Army. You can request to reclass to another MOS, and then if that MOS is available for you to move to, then you can maybe start, you know, you can go to, you know, change your MOS that way. Or if your MOS becomes overstrength MOS, then you can possibly reclass to another MOS. But if you just don't like the MOS and after AIT you want to switch to something else, no, that is not going to be available. So when you pick your MOS, make sure you pick one that you think is going to be a good one. How long are debriefings for returning soldiers when arriving back in the States from a combat overseas? I don't know if you're thinking like it's in movies or anything like that where you're just sitting down with someone and they're debriefing you. They have different things that you'll do when you come back from a deployment. The very first day you come back is really just turn in your weapons, turn in any sensitive items that you have. Soldiers living in the barracks will get assigned a barracks room to go to. They won't go to it yet though. And then all of your luggage gets downloaded and usually have like a welcome home ceremony that everybody's doing. And then after the welcome home ceremony, then you're free and released to, you know, have, you know, some time to go get your stuff into the barracks or to go back to your house or whatever it is you're doing. And then maybe you sometimes usually have like maybe a couple days off, maybe like a 3-day weekend, 4-day weekend, depending on what day you kind of arrived to come back, because they come back in waves. And then when you come back, then they have a bunch of classes you go through. You go through SRP of, you know, which is like this little physical stuff and a bunch of other medical stuff. And then you'll have some classes you have to go through and all sorts of things. So usually that little process lasts about a week or two when you come back of doing that kind of stuff. I might do a video on that topic at some point in time to talk about what you do before a deployment, maybe stuff you do after a deployment as well. I don't know. What is the hardest part in basic training? I think just the mental part of it mainly. Not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing different factors, different things. So a lot of the mental stuff, I think, is, for me anyways, I feel like was probably the hardest part. The physical stuff, sure, it's got challenges to it, but they're building all that stuff up to you, and you're kind of working out, you're doing PT, you're doing all sorts of other tasks that are, you know, giving you a lot of exercise doing those tasks. So the physical stuff just kind of builds over time, but the mental stuff is hard to, like, you can't really work out to build up the mental things. I mean, you could possibly do certain things, but that's a little difficult to do. What other MOS would you have done, Chris? I probably, like, when I was in, I don't think I knew about the MOS anyways. I didn't know about it then, but a 25 Victor, it's like this combat documentary specialist or something like that. I forget what the official name of it is, but that sounds like it would have been a really cool MOS. Maybe had I known about that while I was in the Army, I don't know, maybe I would have reclassed that, but probably not. I probably still wanted to get out and kind of just do my own thing, but that would have been a nice MOS probably. Have fun, you get to stay in old NP barracks. Oh, you're talking about responding to one of the other people? How many old school Army people went to basic training at a place other than the basic training location that are active today? I went to Fort Knox back in 1982. Now, my basic training is still active today, of course, Fort Benning, Georgia, so I don't know. For me anyways. I don't know if there's anybody else in the comments or in the chat that went to a basic training location that is no longer currently available at this time. If I choose 11 X-Ray, will they make me go to airborne school? No. You have to have airborne in your contract or volunteer for airborne school like while you're there, but just by default going in as 11 X-Ray, you won't by default go to airborne school. Hey man, I've been looking into joining ROTC, OCS, or officers training in general. I was looking for some good info, not just the Army website. Do you know any good sources? Trying to think. I don't know if Matt Ward has anything really on ROTC stuff or OCS, because he did some of that stuff. I think he did OCS. I don't remember how he went and did it. I don't know if there's any other good YouTube channel stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where you can get like really good information on that other than the Army's website. I don't know of anybody else that really comments on a lot of that stuff, because like Nick Bear, he was officer, but I don't think he talks about that stuff in his videos, so not too sure on that. Hardest part of basic is the sneaking ice cream. Yeah, that'd probably be really tough. It'd be really hard to sneak ice cream. Instead of going E1, you might be E2 or 3. Oh, yes. Is that talking about for the GRTC thing I was talking about earlier? Out of money for super chats, can you do the make it rain emoji? I don't know, there's a make it rain emoji? I didn't know that was a thing. How much airborne get paid? If you're in an airborne unit actively doing the, what is it, one jump every 3 months or whatever it is, I forget what it is, but I think it's only an extra $100 a paycheck for, I think, 150 or something like that. It's not a ton, but you have to be doing being an airborne unit for that, not just be airborne. You have to be in an airborne unit and doing the required jumps. I think it's every 3 months, one every 3 months or something like that. Is it a good idea to be a cook in the Army? Sure. I mean, especially like if you like that kind of stuff, because you will get to cook food. So I mean, you know, as a cook in the Army, you work in the kitchen, you're cooking the food, working with civilians, doing all that kind of stuff. So I think if you're interested in culinary, I think it's probably a good MOS, decent MOS. It is really long hours, just be aware of that. They do some crazy hours, those cooks, because they have to prepare breakfast and dinner, and they usually have some kind of rotating shifts, but that still means either you're working super early in the morning and then getting off in the afternoon, or working starting in the afternoon and getting off late at night. So, and then working weekends sometimes, working holidays, all that kind of stuff. So you just gotta be aware of that. Any major difference between the National Guard and Army? And Fort Benning is amazing. Any major difference between the National Guard and the Army? I mean, I guess their purpose. I mean, National Guard main purpose will be, they'll be the ones that, like, if there's an earthquake somewhere or a hurricane or whatever, they'll be the ones that get, you know, sent to those locations to help out with that stuff, where active duty sometimes can, but that's not their main mission. So active duty will be more of the things like go into Iraq or Afghanistan or Russia or wherever the war is going on with. National Guard can still sometimes do that stuff, but they're not. It's kind of like how I said with their primary thing is natural disasters, and then active duty is primary the combat type of related things. So, but they still, both of them can be doing the other things as well. Chaos, what is better, Ranger or Special Forces? What is the main difference? I would say Special Forces. They do a lot more cooler operations. They get cooler gear. Main difference, it's tough to explain. I mean, Special Forces are usually doing more of the elite missions than Rangers would be doing. It's tough to explain. I don't know how to really give a good explanation of that, of the missions that they kind of do. But Special Forces are, in my opinion, the more hardcore ones. Not to say that Rangers aren't hardcore, but if you're trying to compare the two, Rangers or Special Forces are a little more hardcore. Hey, what is a 19 kilo? I saw it in a movie and had a question. 19 kilo is a tanker. I have an MOS Monday on that episode, on that MOS as well. So if you wanted to check that out, then you can check that out as well. But 19 kilo, yeah, they basically can do several operations, either driving the tank, manning the gun system on the tank, and then when they get higher in rank, be the tank commander. So they're the ones that are in the Abrams tanks. Is it possible for the CO and the XO to be the same rank? Could a full bird colonel be a battalion commander? Yes. Yeah, battalion commander? Yeah, full bird colonel could still be, maybe. Sometimes, usually when they're about to leave, sometimes you might see situations like that. You usually won't see a full bird colonel be the battalion commander for very long. Maybe they're getting ready to already leave, and then they got promoted. And then as far as the CO and the XO, probably not. I can't think of. I mean, it could happen, but it probably wouldn't be very common, because like the company level, the commander is a captain, and the XO is a lieutenant. And then at a battalion level, then it's usually like either a colonel and then a major as the XO. Not usually the same rank. There's probably some situations where it happens and can happen, but commonly not a thing. Chris, what is the best war movie in opinion? I'm always a fan of Saving Private Ryan. I like Saving Private Ryan. It's a good movie. What rank would a college AA get me starting out? Is that for an associate's degree? For an associate's, I think you can get E3 or something for an associate's. I was active and finished my obligation with National Guard. Most 8-up unit I've ever seen. It happens. You know, sometimes not all units are perfect. The Army is no different than a civilian job, right? You might have a job working at one particular Walmart and everybody's really 8-up and really horrible leadership and bosses and supervisors and everything like that, and then you go to work for another Walmart and it's the greatest supervisors ever. So the military is no different than civilian world. Civilian world has crappy bosses and crappy supervisors. So does the military. It's nothing different. You're not special just because it's military. I was interested in 12 Bravo. My recruiter says a wild comment like you got guts for that. Yeah, I mean, they do a lot of stuff with explosives, a lot of craziness. So it depends on certain things. So you're currently going for a 25 uniform. That's still a good MOS, working with radios and everything. So I mean, that's still a great MOS. What are we at for time? We got approximately 10-ish minutes. So if you haven't already hit that like button, go ahead and hit that like button if you're enjoying that. We're almost to 50. We're trying to see if we can get to 50 before the end of the stream. Chaos, were you in the hospital and what happened? I was. I'm not discussing too much. I don't believe it's serious. I still have to follow up with some things. I'm almost what I feel like is 100%. But yes, I was. Just for it wasn't for very long though. I was only in the hospital for 2 hours, 3 hours. It wasn't for super long. So I still have some follow-up stuff to do. But I don't disclose any of that right now because I don't want anybody going, well, that sounds like this, and then you start getting me all paranoid about something crazy. So, well, I'm gonna wait and I don't know if I'll disclose that. Maybe in a vlog or something at some point in time. What is the highest ranking you can get to as enlisted? The Sergeant Major of the Army technically would be the highest you could possibly go. Otherwise, Sergeant Major. Unless you went to green to gold and switched over to officer side. But as an enlisted side, Sergeant Major of the Army would be the very highest. Edward with a super chat. Thanks for the donation, man. Any advice for civilian male or military civilians dating a female in the military? A female sailor I meet at Fleet Week ghosted me. Any advice? So for a civilian dating someone who's military, be understanding that there's gonna be times where they're gonna be working late and they're gonna be stuck working weekends because they have to do duty or whatever the case might be, or they're gonna go to the field and they're gonna be gone for a week, a month, whatever the case is. So you have to be kind of understanding of, you're not going to be able to have the same relationship as you would with another civilian, because the hours that you work with the military, sometimes it's just a normal, physical fitness in the morning at 6:30, 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday through Friday, and then getting off by 4:30, 5 o'clock at night. And then there's some other days where it'll be even later than that, and even sometimes where they're in training and they'll be gone for a couple weeks. So that's probably the more difficult thing, is being okay with not always being able to spend time with that individual, because they're going to be stuck doing Army stuff sometimes. Hey Chaos, is 19 Delta the same as it used to be? I don't know what it used to be. 19 Delta, I know it as, and always known it as, was a scout, and they're primarily working with a Bradley fighting vehicle, doing recon and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what it used to be, but it's a scout. Good way to deal with blisters from marching. If you already have a blister, you're kind of screwed. I mean, you can kind of do some stuff, medical stuff, but the best thing is either moleskin, or they have certain kind of specialized tape that you put over your feet that helps to kind of break down the friction, so that it reduces your chances of being able to get blisters. I used this stuff called combat tape, I think is what it was called, when I did the Baton Death March in March. And it worked great. I didn't get any blisters or anything during that 26 miles. So that worked pretty well. But you can also use moleskin. That's another good way to do it. And you put that over your feet, and that helps break up the friction, so that you possibly won't even get the blisters in the first place. But after you've already gotten them, you're kind of screwed. It's too late by then. 49 likes I'm seeing. I need one more person to hit that like button, which I'm sure that there's probably more than one of you that haven't hit that like button. We can get past 50, but at least one of you needs to hit that like button so we can get past 49 and get to 50 likes, because we got about a little less than 10 minutes left of this live stream before it's over. Sabrina says 12 strong. What are you talking about? What's 12 strong? Do you recommend to wait to be a U.S. citizen before joining the Army? No, not necessarily. There are actually some programs, if you have your green card and you join the Army to a qualifying MOS that will allow you to join the Army with a green card, then there are certain programs that you can do to actually get your citizenship faster than you would be getting it normally as a civilian. So sometimes it can be a faster way to get U.S. citizenship by joining the Army. So that's always a good idea. I've known some people that have done that, where they came in, got their U.S. citizenship while they were in the Army, and they got it much faster than they would have had they just simply been doing some kind of civilian job somewhere else. What was the funniest experience that you had in basic? Basic? Funny experience? Oh man. I'm trying to think. I don't know. There was a time, I don't know if it's the funniest. I probably really have to think about it. And it was a while back when I went to basic. But there was a funny moment. I don't know if it's the funniest moment, but I remember there was one night when the drill sergeant came in at like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that, turned on all the lights, and he was drunk as hell. And he was with some girl, and I think he was, probably come back from the club or something or whatever, and trying to impress this girl. Maybe it was his girlfriend, maybe it was some girl he picked up from the club or whatever. And he was like yelling at all of us, making us do push-ups and all sorts of craziness. And then him and her took off to his office, and then we went back to bed, and it was pretty funny. And I'm sure there was probably who knows what going on in that office afterwards. Maybe nothing, I don't know though, but it was kind of a funny moment of him coming in all drunk and stuff. So, Bit Expert, dropping $2, but then deleting your message. But thanks for the donation, man. I don't know what the message was, but I appreciate the donation. Where else we leave off? All right, Chris, sorry I wasn't very active in the chat, having dinner with the family, but I'll catch you later. Rock on. Hey, no problem, Jay the Vorn. It's great hanging out. Great seeing you. All that kind of funness. Best way to go enlisted and then apply for warrant officer? I don't know if there's a best way to do so. I don't know. But usually there's different requirements for different MOSs for when you can actually apply to be a warrant officer. Sometimes the rank usually is, sometimes you have to be at least an E4, sometimes E5, some for E6. Sometimes it just depends before you can go in for a warrant officer, but I don't know what the best path would possibly be. Chris, what is your favorite helicopter? The Apache. Apache's pretty cool. I like the Apache helicopter. It's pretty badass. Do soldiers you teach know about your channel or your service? I've had a few. I've had a couple. There's been a couple of times where they didn't recognize me right away, and then after about a day or two, they come up to me and they like, hey sir, I got a question. I figure they're gonna ask me something about, you know, the class or something like that. And like, are you on YouTube? And I'll be like, yeah, I got a YouTube channel. It's like, I thought I recognized you from somewhere, blah, blah, blah. So there's been a couple of those. There's been a few where they did recognize me. There was a really cool one, maybe it was like a month ago, 2 months ago or something like that, where the guy said that he saw my video on my top 5 choices for duty stations. And because I had Fort Carson as number 2, he really liked my explanation on that video, and he chose Fort Carson when he put out his dream sheet of where to go and everything like that, and he got it, and he got Fort Carson. So it was kind of cool to hear that someone, because of me, you know, something in the Army, you know, inspired them, you know, not necessarily joining the Army. I don't know if I've met anybody that was inspired to join the Army because of my videos. I don't know if I've met anybody like that or heard any comments like that. I don't remember, but that one specifically chose Fort Carson because of my video. But yeah, there's been a couple, not a whole lot. It doesn't happen very often. There was a guy one time in the hallway where I was walking through the hallway, and he stopped me. I thought he was going to ask me something like where a classroom was at, and then he asked me if I was Christopher Chaos, and I was like, yeah. And so it was kind of funny, but it doesn't happen very often, but it has happened. All right, we got a super chat from Edward. How does the civilian pack up a female serve soldier? What are you talking about? Oh, how does a civilian pick up a female soldier? It's tough to really target it that way. I mean, it's just going to be a normal way of, you know, meeting them out in public, you know, probably at a bar, in the mall, or whatever, and you might not even know that they're even in the military. I don't know if there's a good way to really target one specifically unless you saw her walking around or him walking around, whatever the case is, in uniform, and tried to do it that way. I don't think there's any, is there any, like, you know, like there's farmersonly.com and all stuff. I don't know, is there a soldiers only? If not, maybe I should start that and capitalize on that. maybe I need to build that website, soldiersonly.com. That'd be a good idea. I should look into that. I feel like that'd be the problem with that probably would be is there's a good chance you'd get a lot of scammers targeting that website and meeting people to scam. But I guess it's no different than a regular dating website because you have that problem with dating websites normally anyways. Who at Christopher Chaos, how are things? Things are going great. Chris, the military move. Someone asked the military you liked. I don't understand what you're saying there. Not sure what that comment is asking. Christopher, have you ever considered finishing up your career in the Guard or Reserves? No, I'm pretty happy doing what I'm doing as a civilian and everything like that, and the freedom that goes along with it, especially now that I've been out for a while. I probably wouldn't get to come back in at my same rank. I'd probably have to come in at a lower rank, and I would also probably have to go through basic training. Maybe not the full basic training all over again, but probably even like some kind of, I don't know, they might probably just maybe go through the whole basic training again. But I've been out for a good enough time from being out. Like my knowledge on the Army stays up to date because I work with the Army still, so that really helps out. But actually being physically in the Army, I got out in 2010. So my experience, you know, is still kind of carried on because of working with the Army, but because I've been out for such a long time, I wouldn't get to probably come back in as a sergeant. I probably would also have to redo basic training and some other things. So that wouldn't be a good idea for me. I wouldn't do it. Hey Chris and everyone, so happy I didn't work so I can be here. Miss you all. Well, thanks Evie for dropping in, but sadly we only got about like, I don't know how much time we got. I think the little clock is off. I think we're pretty close. Yeah, we're pretty close to ending here. So sorry. I kind of joined in towards the back end of this whole thing. Chaos, what's your favorite special forces? Would you join if you could? I don't know if I'm in physical shape to be able to join the special forces. It's very physically demanding. As far as favorite, the only reason I would pick 10th group is because they're here on Fort Carson, where I work at and where I'm living in the area. Otherwise, there's no other reason other than because they're here why I would pick 10th group. But that's my favorite, I guess, is 10th group. But yeah, I wouldn't make it. I'm definitely not now. Probably when I was in the Army. I don't know. I don't know if I would have even made it back then. I don't know. Who knows? But I really didn't have that drive because, like, in my video of why I got out, really the Army was only really a stepping stone kind of a thing, and the experience that I wanted to receive, not necessarily something I wanted to do forever. So going anything hardcore like Special Forces, Rangers, anything like that wasn't really in my interest for doing anything like that. Just finished editing. Hey, Ben Allen. Just finished editing our video, man. Should be uploaded in a week or so. Awesome. So there you go. Right there. There's Ben right there. I was just talking about you earlier, Ben. Someone asked me a really good question that you already asked me in that video, and I didn't want to get the answer on here because it told me how to wait until your video goes up for them to be able to check it out. So there you go. Right there. Ben Allen here in the chat. If you're not subscribed to Ben Allen, go check him out. Great content on his channel as well. And then once his video goes live from our little MOS little video thing about my MOS when I was in the Army, I'll be sure to share it so you guys can check it if you guys aren't already subscribed to Ben Allen to see it anyways. I would pay $40 a month to join as an admirer of Soldiers Only. Yeah, I feel like that'd be, sounds like a great idea for a website, but I don't know. I feel like that would attract a lot of scammers, but so do normal dating websites anyways. I recommend going enlisted and then officer. I have a degree, bachelor's. Do you think it will take too long to transition? I don't know. Recommend going enlisted, then officer. It really, I think it's personal preference. The only kind of advantage that I've a lot of times seen with soldiers that or individuals that go enlisted and then later become officers is that you have at least the experience from both sides of the world. Sides of what it's like being on the enlisted side and then going officer. And then a lot of times soldiers can relate to you a little bit better because they, if they know your backstory and they know that you've been an enlisted soldier at one point in time, then they don't kind of, treat you as crappy because they're like, hey, this officer has actually been through the crap that we've been through. And so they understand a little bit better. But sometimes this is personal preference. Do you want to start off just going straight into it and be an officer, or do you want to get that experience of, getting your hands dirty essentially and then becoming an officer? So personal preference, I would imagine. So it just kind of depends on some situations. How often does 19 Delta deploy? Because I'm wanting to go overseas into the combat zone. Common question I get all the time. I even did a 2-Minute Tuesday video on something like this. Of people asking me, how often does this MOS deploy? How often does that MOS deploy? Here's the main thing you have to understand. It is not based on MOS. It does not matter if you are an 11 Bravo or if you are a cook. If you're in a unit that is going to be coming up on orders to deploy, you are going to deploy. So there are some cases where a cook might have deployed more times than an infantry soldier just because of the unit that person was in, where that unit was very active with deployments and going to these locations for deployments. So it doesn't matter what MOS you are. If you're in a unit that is going to deploy, then you deploy. So you can't think that just because you're in a combat MOS or that you're going to deploy a lot and because you're in something like a finance or cook or something like that, that you're not going to deploy. That's not the case. You can easily deploy the same amount or even more than the other, just based on the unit you're in. So that's the thing you have to keep in mind. Let's see. Do you have to be a specific MOS to try out for Special Forces? No. Any MOS can try out for Special Forces. It doesn't matter because you won't stay in that MOS when you go to Special Forces. You're going to be changing MOSs essentially to one of the 18 series MOSs. So super chat from Charlie. Thanks for the donation. Again, didn't leave a question, but that's cool. Great stream. Hope your health is better. Well, thanks, Charlie. I see that though right above it. So I mean, that's cool. And that's awesome. So we're at about an hour. We'll do a couple more questions and then that'll be the end of this live stream. I'll be back though on Tuesday, hopefully, if everything goes as planned. And then maybe on Tuesday we'll do the weeknights with Chaos and hopefully try to get on a good schedule of every Tuesday and Thursday doing those, and then these on the weekends, obviously. What are your thoughts on the UCP? They seem to be mutually hated. I think they're pretty cool. I like them. I think they look good. Would you consider going back in as an officer? No, probably not. Because like I said, I still like the freedom of being a civilian. I mean, sure, it'd probably be a little bit better as an officer, but I like having a beard. That's another thing too. Can't have a beard. So, Soldiers Only Online. You should like you're trying to take Chuck Woolery's job on Love Connection. I think it'd be great. It might be a good website. Who knows? Soldiersonly.com. It might already be out there. I don't know. I feel like it'd be a lot of work, but it might be a good dating website. You could require a military email for military members and civilian admirers' best judgment. Yeah, see, that'd be the tough part. Is like, yeah, you could, verify the soldiers for the military or the army or whatever individuals for the site, but the civilian ones would be hard to make sure that they're not some civilians that are going to try to scam soldiers. Would be the hard part to try to maintain, I'd imagine. Chris, my stepdad was a 153 Alpha. Do you think I should do that too? What the heck is a 153 Alpha? I know that sounds like a really long MOS. I think there's a number in there that you're accidentally typed extra. Let me see something, because I don't think that's a thing. 153 Alpha. There's a National Guard thing for rotary wing aviator for the National Guard. I don't know if that's what that is. Army and West 153 Alpha rotary wing aviator. So it's just only available in the National Guard. I don't know. I don't know anything about that MOS. Apparently it is an MOS, but it's only available in the National Guard, it looks like. So you have to join the National Guard to be a 153 Alpha. Interesting. So thanks for teaching me something. Sounded like really long because most MOSs are only 2 digits and then a letter. Not usually 3 digits in a number or in a letter. So good to know. All right, so we're gonna do maybe one. We'll do 2 more questions. I'll look for a new one and then an old one. Let's see. I don't want to be an underwater basket weaver. 123 Bravo. No, not that MOS. I was looking for one more question for here. You got an Army card. Just have them to type in something. Well, there's ways to verify online for soldiers that you could do with systems. I heard a recruiter mentioning the sand pit obstacle. What is the general goal of it? Okay, so this will be the last new question. I'll do one previous one that I may have missed, but usually like a sand pit, usually if they have that in an obstacle course, it's usually like low crawling. So you'll low crawl through it, and it slows you down because it's sand, and so it's really tough to maneuver through there. So it just wears you out. That's really what it's kind of doing. All right, I'm gonna go backwards. I'm gonna find an old question that maybe I missed. Let's see. We'll do this one. Do longer AITs from Alexander. Asking, do longer AITs eventually give more freedom? 55 weeks for 17 Charlie. Yes, usually the longer MOSs will start to get more relaxed the longer you get into it, where shorter MOSs are usually pretty strict pretty much all the way through it, with a few areas here and there where you'll get some opportunities to do things like go to the PX or maybe get a weekend pass or something. But your longer MOSs, your longer AITs anyways, will usually have more freedoms, where maybe you have a better barracks room, you have maybe options where you can keep your cell phone and keep your laptop, and then more weekend passes and a little bit more freedom, maybe weekends off, all that, after a certain phase. So yes, usually longer AITs usually do result in more freedom as you go along, whereas shorter AITs are pretty much fairly strict through the whole thing. So it just kind of depends on the length of the AIT. All right. So that's it. We did manage to get over 50, so that's awesome. We got up to 63 from what I'm seeing on my screen. You guys rock for smashing that like button. But if you enjoyed this live stream, go ahead and hit that like again. We can't hit it again, but that'll unlike it. But you can hit that like if you haven't already liked it. So thanks for hanging out, guys. I will be back on Tuesday. Hopefully will be the plan for a live stream. We have MOS Monday tomorrow, so make sure to check out that episode. And all that fun stuff. And then links down in the description. Trying out Amazon's affiliate program again. It wasn't very effective with it before. Thought I'd give it a shot again, but there's links down below, so if you want to know what cameras I use, what lighting I use, even some of those grunt style shirts that I like to wear sometimes on videos, there's links to them probably down in the description you can check out. If you make a purchase, it helps out the channel a little bit. It doesn't cost anything extra to you by using those links, but sometimes it helps out the channel. Sometimes even if you use those links and then shop for something else, sometimes that even helps out the channel occasionally. It just depends on how it kind of works, but that's always helpful. But check out those links. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll be seeing you guys again soon. See ya.